Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with Brew.
There we go.
He's got that sort of Eric Cantona-esque demeanour about him.
Are they going to win the title then?
Do you know what? I think this was better than Anfield away, the way that they played in this game.
Manchester United fans are going to absolutely love you after this week's episode.
If you don't put the brick in the right place, it doesn't quite work.
Manchester United are back again. 6th in the Premier League, 3 Premier League wins on the bounce under Ruben Amorim for the first time ever with that 4-2 win over Brighton and Hove Albion at Old Trafford on Saturday evening. I'm Will Pugh. That right there is Dean Scoggins, Sun Sports tactical guru. This is the Tactics Exposed studio. And Dino, as ever, as we carry on this feel-good factor around Manchester United here on Tactics Exposed, you have got 5 points about that game from a tactical perspective that fans may or may not have noticed.
Yeah, hopefully they won't have noticed all of them. But the first one, number one, MC Hammer. There's a telepathic understanding that's Mbeumo and Cunha are developing. And this little game of Tetris that they're playing, which is very, very interesting. And number two, just like the deodorant, Shaw, he won't let you down. It was brilliant pressing from Luke Shaw and the back three, and we'll show that brilliant tactic from Amorim. Number three, stuck in the middle with Brew. How United solved the midfield problem that they've been having the last few weeks. Number four, I've been waiting for this one. If life gives you lemons, make lemonade. The great passing, short and long from the Manchester United goalkeeper. And number five, did you notice the no-touch assist? Bit of intrigue there for the fans at the end.
Absolutely, mate. I'm delighted to see, Dino, that there are no songs for me to sing in the headlines this week.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with Brew.
There we go. I'm just determined to reverse the track and make you sing for a change. Listen, Dino, great result for United. Excellent Team Talk show previewing this game. There's lots of things that you noticed that went exactly as you predicted. A couple of things that were slightly different through sort of reasons you weren't able to foresee at the time. But on the whole, you sort of expected it to go the way it did.
Yeah. It was really what you want from your attacking shape, and what I talked about in the Team Talk show is how they can get Amad Diallo in that attacking position, how they can get Bryan Mbeumo in more of a striker position. They actually did that with Šeško on the field as well, and then Lenny Yoro, as we talked about, being in the back three for pace. But there was also some really interesting stuff they did with the wing backs, which helped that out as well. So it was a really, really accomplished performance from Man United.
All right, then, Dino, let's get straight to point number one then. MC Hammer, Mbeumo and Cunha, the two big signings in the summer, and both of them in very, very different ways, paying back their money.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was probably the performance that the Man United fans have been waiting to see from Matheus Cunha. They've seen a lot of really good stuff from Bryan Mbeumo so far, but from Matheus Cunha, they've probably felt there's a bit more to come, but he's got that swagger about him. He's got that sort of, we talked about it before, that sort of, I'm not going too far, that Eric Cantona-esque demeanour about him. Like, don't get me wrong, please stay out of the comments, I'm not saying he's as good as Eric Cantona, but from a Man United perspective, a number 10, someone who floats around the place. So what's really important when you've got a player like that, who likes to drop deep, great Selly, by the way, look at that, who likes to drop deep into positions like a number 10 and roam around, you've got to have players around him who understand where he wants to go. And that's what's been coming the last few weeks. So hat tip to Šeško as well, because although he didn't touch the ball for, I think, like the first 10, 11 minutes, after that, the three of them together develop this. If one drops in the hole, two go up. If one's up in a defensive shape, two drop in. And what it meant was that Cunha and Mbeumo dropped into little spaces that we've talked about for months in this Amorim formation of how it's got to work with the wide forwards, the inverted 10s, the attacking 8s, whatever you want to call them, those two forward positions, when they're in a defensive shape, they drop in behind Šeško, and that also gives them the space in front of them. And what they did brilliantly was fill those holes one way and the other. So if the ball went to the right-hand side, and it was going to be passed into Mbeumo, Cunha moved into that space in front of him, which allowed the diagonal little pass into his feet, and then they're away. And Šeško, again, moved along to create that space for one of them to move into. So as a three, it's like blocks moving around the place with space in front of them at all times. Really, really difficult to do.
It's almost like a game of Tetris, Dino.
Yeah,
would you
very
say?
good. Absolutely, that's good. I like that. Very, very good. And as you say, if you don't put the brick in the right place, it doesn't quite work. This is the thing. The last few, I was going to say weeks, but months, we've been trying to work out why this formation is a little bit sticky and a little bit stodgy. And Amorim's been talking about how they have to go through the phases. And this was really, really intelligent from United, because there was a few times where you move players around and it was a different player in the press. Now, Šeško at times drifted out to the left on the press. Cunha went into the 9 position. Bryan Mbeumo went and attacked and pressed in the number 9 space. Amad Diallo moved up the right, and then everybody shuffled across. And it was square pegs in square holes for the first time for United. But it was led by these two, and it was summed up by the 2 goals, because obviously there's this phenomenal Bruno Fernandes touch that, again, last week we talked about Liverpool. Did he mean it? Helping it back in.
Yeah, quite,
you were smirking at me. This time, it came to him on the volley again, and he just side-footed it over to, I think it was Šeško or Casemiro. I think it was Casemiro, who then lays it to Cunha. Gorgeous first touch on his left foot, and then curled in the corner. And then the other occasion was the Mbeumo goal, where he goes running through. There's a little movement in midfield where Cunha and Šeško go like that in those spaces, exactly as I talked about, and it's actually the ball goes into Šeško instead of Cunha, but it's the space that Cunha's vacated, and the ball goes through to Bryan Mbeumo. And we should also talk about Bryan Mbeumo's movement there. There's this little side step backwards that takes him away from Lewis Dunk, and it just provides the space for him to run through on goal. And then he has Amad Diallo make a really unselfish run, my favourite run, up the outside, so that Mbeumo can cut in and score in exactly the position he wants to be. So what a performance from those two. And they were all action in all over the field as well. The defensive positions they got into, we saw Cunha sliding back in his own box, nearly gave a penalty away. We saw Amad Diallo, we saw Mbeumo, we saw all of them in attacking and defensive positions. It was a really, really good display. And I tell you what, 1 game a week for United, they can play like this every week. There's no Wednesday to worry about. They can be all action and full-blooded like this every game.
Are they going to win the title then?
Let's see him get above Sunderland first.
Quite right, Dino, quite right indeed. And you were mentioning, to be fair, like Mbeumo, we covered it on Team Talk, didn't we? How he's doing the tactical work, and it's a little bit more obvious how he's willing to do sort of the donkey work in the getting back and defending and putting the work in at both ends of the pitch. There were some doubts, weren't there, around Cunha, and the fact that he's doing that, I think, is delighting Manchester United fans up and down the country at the moment, certainly all the ones I know who live in London. Luke Shaw, Dino, point number 2, just like the deodorant, he won't let you down, offering 24-hour protection for United's backline.
Match of the spray, we having that, yeah.
Match of the spray, yeah. Other deodorants are available. But anyway, Dino, go on.
Yeah,
about Luke Shaw.
I was really... Look, he's a bit polarising again, Luke Shaw. A bit like Diogo Dalot. Luke Shaw is the one where the United fans have been a bit, are we sure about him in this formation? I tell you what, this was, again, probably the best tactical element that I've seen from the Amorim group for months again. Do you know what? I think this was better than Anfield away, the way that they played in this game. And for the first point as well, but for this. So I think it was 45, 50 seconds in, after United had their customary first-minute shot on goal, which we talked about in Team Talk as well, where Luke Shaw goes out to Jorginho Rutter, and he goes from a centre-back position and he squeezes all the way up the field, almost to the edge of the Brighton area when Brighton are playing out. So United's press was planned perfectly. Šeško, Cunha and Mbeumo. Whether Amad goes up depends on where his man goes or whether he stays. And then Luke Shaw and Matheus de Ligt are either going to go, like, so if Rutter goes to feet, they've obviously identified this from Brighton, Luke Shaw is going to go all the way out with him. If Danny Welbeck goes to feet, De Ligt is going to go all the way out with him, however far he goes. Do you remember we did the episode Newcastle, Arsenal at St James's Park where Cher did it on Declan Rice? So they've decided, Man United, they're going to press all the way in. And it's really brave, really, really brave. And it leads to the Casemiro goal because Luke Shaw is not thinking, what happens behind me? I'll come on to that in a second. He's thinking, if we nick it here, we're in. And he nicks it in that position. It goes to Casemiro, and obviously they get a bit of luck, but in it goes. But bravery on the press.
Now, Dino, one thing you talked about in the Team Talk show on Thursday that United need to be aware of, and what Brighton have been so effective at this season, is those balls over the top. Is that if they push the wing-backs on, United that is, they leave those pockets of space in behind, that they need to think about that when they're approaching their attacking play as well as their defensive. Basically, don't get caught on the counter-attack with long balls over the top with Brighton's pace up front. They did that in a very clever way.
Yeah, and this was almost like win-win from that Luke Shaw tactic. And I actually, when I was doing my research, I forgot to mention it in the Team Talk show, the Alex Iwobi quote from Fulham away, where they said, we know the centre-backs are going to jump out, so we're going to target the space in behind him. So it was a little tactical insight from Iwobi after the Fulham game. So that was really key to this and why I talked about it in Team Talk. So this Shaw and De Ligt tactic, you've got to imagine that there's a back five there, OK? So, or a back three with the wing backs. Right. So we'll show this in the graphic. So if Luke Shaw jumps out with Rutter, you've still got De Ligt and Yoro as your two centre-backs, right, and you've still got Dalot and Ahmad as your right-backs. The same as if De Ligt goes out, Luke Shaw's going to stay and there's two there. So they've got to work in tandem and communicate with each other, OK? It was interesting that De Ligt went out with Welbeck and not Yoro, but that's because of Yoro's pace in behind. So Yoro's the cover man because he's quicker than De Ligt. But to your point about the space in behind, we know, like, Mitoma was injured, which was a shame for Brighton, but they obviously had players who were going to run in behind, specifically Minter, who is going to target that space. But what United cleverly did is that because they know that Shaw or De Ligt are going to go out and create that extra man in midfield and press, the wing-backs are then the deepest men. And so it was one side, it was Diogo Dalot, and the other side, it was Amad Diallo. And there's a really, really great grab of this where both of them are the deepest men. And those two are the ones who have gone over the top to counteract that Brighton over the top ball over the top. Because if you imagine you're going to press and you get the press well, the ball over the top is the most likely option. So they cover around the back. Lammens there to sweep up as well. Absolutely brilliant from United. And not only did it lead to the Casemiro goal, it also, although I thought it was a foul, led to the Mbeumo goal as well, where Shaw presses in again against Rutter. So brilliant from United, brilliant from Amorim, all-round win-win.
Do you sort of feel that, Dino, it just shows how much those wing-backs are expected to do under an Amorim system? Because you spend a lot of time talking about how they impact the game going forward, how they also drop in to make that five-man midfield. They're now also expected to be, in certain games, the two deepest defenders who are there to sweep up and sort of defend against pace and long balls over the top.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And it's also how much work the centre-backs have got to do. There were times where Luke Shaw followed Rutter almost over to the right wing position and committed to that man-v-man press we've talked about, and De Ligt was right up on the edge of the box, and then he's got to sprint 70 yards back. And look, one of my Man United pals calls it centre-back bingo because about 65 minutes, one of them gets substituted. But you can see why, and to your point about the wing-backs as well, that's why they need Dalot, Mazraoui, Amad Diallo and Dorgu, because that after 65, 70 minutes of that intensity, there's going to be a drop-off. So, yeah, look, again, one game a week, they're going to be a real handful this season, United.
Dino, Manchester United fans are going to absolutely love you after this week's episode because that is the second time already that you've told everyone else in the league to beware. We're not even on to point 3 yet, but let's move on to point 3. Bruno Fernandes, that problem in midfield, stuck in the middle with Bru, is the title of this section. Just talk to me a little bit once again about Manchester United's midfield, much criticised towards the beginning of the season and last campaign, but it's one of their strongest parts of their team for the last few weeks.
Yeah, and we've talked about it lots, haven't we, on Team Talk and on Tactics Exposed, about Bruno Fernandes, and he shouldn't be a problem because he's their best player. So where you can see when they play well, goes under the radar a little bit. That doesn't mean he's played worse. It means the whole team has played better.
Right.
And he was excellent again. But the problem that they've had in recent weeks is because he's so all action, and that Steven Gerrard syndrome I've talked about before, where he goes chasing the ball into different places, it often leaves Casemiro exposed in that midfield. And obviously in this 3-4-3 formation, or look, there's different iterations of that we won't go into. But, you know...
We've done enough of that.
Yeah, we've done enough of that. But there's only two midfielders. So often in the Premier League, you play against a three-man midfield, and that's something. So how they solved it, the first position that they solved it with was kind of from point one, where Bruno, Mbeumo and Cunha drop in with Bruno on either side. Straight away, they've got two players working harder to get deeper. And as I said in point one, that creates the space in front of them to run into when they win the ball back. And then secondly, De Ligt and Shaw driving with their man in there means that they can absolutely be bolstered in that area. The other thing was I thought was really impressive from Šeško is that he then drops in between as well to block the passing lane, which means that Bruno less often goes out to try and get the ball. So it's not just one thing, it's three or four different things. And there was one really, really great moment from United where we got a really great grab, and Bruno's actually in the left back position or the left wing back position. Shaw's in midfield, Dallow's at centre back, I think Amad Diallo's at right wing. There's players in the wrong position from the team sheet for them in that position. They're in the wrong place, but from a structure perspective, they're in exactly the right place. So it doesn't really matter which player is where, as long as they're in that shape.
Kind of sort of going back to what you said in section one with that Tetris thing, where you might look at it and go, what's he doing there, what's he doing there? But actually, all of the blocks are filling just the right holes.
Exactly. And that just goes to show how much these Man United players are learning this Amorim system. And as I've said time and time again, and I told you so. It's not the system that's the problem. There are lots of different ways of winning football matches, and this is the system that Amorim wants to play. And the reason that it's been really good the last few weeks is because the players are understanding which of those bits they want to do. So if Bruno goes to press because he sees an opportunity to press, another player's got to understand that he drops him in the hole from where Bruno's vacated, and so will show their average position maps. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect of where they're supposed to be. But that didn't mean that they didn't leave their positions and go out. And so it was really good. What I thought from the nerd brain bit at the end of it that I was watching was that the number of times that Man United players went to press and then looked and then went, yeah, it's me. And then they went. And then they went, oh, I've got to go left there. Or he's pressed, I've got to fill in the hole behind. So again, really, really good. And let's be honest, against a quality side, Brighton are a very good team.
Can I just ask one question, Dino? Because what you've just described there, players filling in when someone else goes, that feels to me, not that the level of football I played was particularly impressive, but having played 11-a-side football at a reasonable level over a long period of time, that feels like quite a basic concept you've described of when someone bombs up the pitch, someone covers it.
Yeah, that is true at the pace that you and I played. Yeah.
Fine, yeah.
But at Premier League level, players will and teams will exploit it. So they'll see an overload. They'll see that there's 4v3 in one place because someone's vacated, and they'll switch the ball quickly, or they should, and they'll try and do that. And United were getting done by that, by players leaving midfield positions and pressing in, and then a two-touch, two-bounce pass into an area that's been vacated. And at that speed, at that level, you've got to think before it happens, not when it happens, and that's what they did really well.
Okay, fine, fair enough. I won't take offence at that. Suggesting that
I said me as well.
Play at Premier League level.
I think we were a similar pace, probably.
Exactly, yeah. Or perhaps now, even though you're considerably older than me. Right, Dino.
Considerably older than you.
Point number 4. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
I've been waiting for this one. It's great. As soon as he signed, I wanted to do this pun. So,
exactly. But look, Man United fans were delighted with his performance at Anfield. Lots of people go, look, if you can go there and sort of play with chest like he did, if he can do that, he does the same at Brighton at home, it feels like there's just for a first time in a while, a lot less panic about the man between the sticks.
Yeah, look, and he's going to have a bad day soon. He's going to, because it's a goalkeeper in the Premier League. They do. Let's just hope that the pile-on isn't really severe, because do you know what? I've not seen many goalkeepers settle in the Premier League as quickly as him. And I thought it was brilliant from Amorim, the way he's managed it the way through.
He's sort of built up a bit of credit in the bank already, isn't he?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
With fans.
Yeah. I mean, what are they chanting? Are you Schmeichel in disguise in the Stretford end? So, I mean, that's, it's quite a good disguise if it's Schmeichel. But it's brilliant stuff. And the thing we pulled out in team talk was the long passing at Anfield, okay? And this was going to have to be different against Brighton, and it exactly was. And the most impressive thing, look, the shot stopping was decent. Probably could have done a little better with Welbeck's free kick, but it was really well struck. Made a great save that the referee actually gave a goal kick for when he flicked it round the post. But all of that sort of a given, to quote Roy Keane, that's your job. But the really good
well done
stuff...
for not doing the accent, by the way.
The really good stuff was with his feet again. So it was the decision-making of when we're going long and when we're going to play. And I mentioned in Team Talk that you'll see him put his foot on the ball, and he drags the ball around and he invites players on. And again, in not many games, he's gained a huge amount of confidence of the players around him. And there were times he played little passes in between the lines to wing-backs coming off the wing. He found Bruno into feet a couple of times. He played this cushion first-time ball into the midfield player. Midfield players were thinking, oh, this is great, I can now turn and play. But then also, when he was under pressure, it went into good areas. They're not hoofs into nowhere. They're into Šeško, they're into Mbeumo to compete.
They're long passes.
They're long passes. And also, it gives United the ability then to win the second balls. So if he's invited Brighton on, which often happen with 3 or 4 players coming up, then you go over it, those 3 or 4 players are out of the game, and United can win the second ball battle with more players. So really good again. And look, he's going from strength to strength. And I'd like to see some teams target him a little bit more at set pieces. I don't think that's been quite good yet. I don't think Brighton took many great set pieces in the game. He took a couple of good catches, one good punch. I think, they've got Tottenham away in a couple of weeks' time. They'll see a bit more, set pieces, people fly at him a bit more. So lots of tests to come, but he's passed them all with flying colours so far.
Absolutely. We saw Dino, didn't we, in the Liverpool game, where we showed his pass map at the end of the game on the Tactics Exposed reaction show to that win at Anfield. And so much of it was long ball, right? It was obviously a tactic. Arne Slot moaned about it, etc., etc. Do you think...
Arne Slot moaning? I'm sorry. Is that right? Yes, it is, yeah.
What you're describing about the game against Brighton, do you think that he's got the tactical nous to be able to make those calls for himself? Well, that's what it sounds like you're describing. It's not just Amorim says, right, we're playing Liverpool, go long, this is what we're doing. He's also sort of already developed that ability to make his own calls in game about what the right decision is.
Exactly. They would have practiced it in the week, where there'll be a couple of triggers to that. So, bearing in mind, you're in a 70-odd thousand stadium, you've got 21 players in front of you. There's a lot of visual going on, right? So in training, they will practice triggers where if a striker comes onto you, you look, and if another striker's there but you've got a centre-back, no thanks. Away it goes. If then the other centre-back's moved into a midfield position, you've got a full-back there and you've only got one player pressing, then you play, because then you're going to drag the 2 out and then you're going to go from there. But it is, I wouldn't say he's deciding it himself, it's a tactic, but it's then in the moment, can you make the right decision? And that's exactly what he did. Didn't put a foot wrong, really.
Absolutely, Dino. Right, point number 5, the Bruno touch assist.
Yeah.
This won't be a good one for Dream Team managers because Bruno Fernandes won't be getting any points for this assist, but you were impressed with it nonetheless.
Yeah. Do you know what? This one was better than Szoboszlai's at St James's Park, when I said it might be time for people to start thinking on Dream Team that you can get an assist for not touching the ball. But well, honestly, it was that good. And the reason it was better than Szoboszlai's Szoboszlai's one was kind of understandable. If you remember, it was a Salah cross and Szoboszlai ran over the ball for the young lad at the back post.
Ngamoa,
that's right, to score with his right foot. Brilliant goal, right? But this, Bruno sees it before the ball even comes. It is that good. We've got the precise moment of the grab where the ball's about to go into Dalot, and Bruno looks over his shoulder and sees Bryan Mbeumo there.
This is for the very last goal.
This is for the last goal, which, was the one that they were getting a bit twitchy at 3-2, weren't they? Which they shouldn't have been because they dominated the game. But he looks over his shoulder there and sees Mbeumo there. And if you think that the pass is there and Mbeumo's there, you don't, to me anyway, because I'm not Bruno Fernandes, think that I'm going to dummy this, because there's no. But then Bruno looks, the pass comes, and when he looks, Mbeumo thinks, I know where this is going. And Bruno runs into the line of the pass and just lets it run. And that just opens up the entire Brighton defence for Mbeumo to smash it in the corner. It's unbelievably good from Bruno Fernandes. And again, he should get Dream Team points for it.